Good morning, everyone. Hello, my name is Erica Austin, and I am joined this morning by Grisha Stewart, who is the author of the book, Bat 2.0. Hello, Grisha. Good morning. I know it's extremely early where you are. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me, Erica. I really appreciate this. And yes, it is very early for me.
I'm so grateful that you
dark outside. I hope
sure, let's do it. Time zones are hard, man. Time zones are just hard. So Grisha's here this morning, but we want to know where our viewers are tuning in from. So if you are joining us live today, please leave a comment and let us know where you are joining from. I also want to invite our listeners, our people who are joining in today, to let us know, have you read Bat 2.0? That's our first question for our audience. If you have read it, let us know in the comments. If you haven't read it, but you want to, let us know in the comments. And this, of course, is my not so subtle pitch. If you have read the book, please go leave a review for the book, especially on dogwise.com, but also on Amazon. We love it when we get 5-star reviews. It really helps our readers decide what book do they want to read next. Is this a book that's relevant for me? And if you're not sure, we're going to dive into that today. The other thing that I want to mention is that Bat 2.0 is now available as an audiobook on Audible, and we are so incredibly excited about that. This audiobook, Grisha, I don't know if you know this, but this audiobook actually has become one of our best sellers, which I was really surprised, not because it's not a fantastic book. It's a fantastic book. And there's so many visuals in this book. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, well, but you've really got to know, like there's all these color photos and there's all sorts of stuff. Like if you're listening to it, are you really going to get the full experience? But we had an amazing narrator who really did a great job describing the graphics. And anyone who does have the audiobook, you can actually go to our YouTube channel and see that there is an accompanying PDF with the audiobook. So when you download the audiobook, automatically in your library, we created a PDF so that you can reference the visual materials that are in the book while you are listening to the audiobook, which is pretty special. So we have got a ton of people who are joining in. Hello, Casey, who's joining us from Santa Fe, and Samantha from West Sussex. What time is it in West Sussex is what I want to know. Mallory's joining from Memphis, Tennessee, from snowy Philadelphia. We've got people joining from all over the place. We're so excited to have you all here. This is a live Q&A, and we're very excited to have Grisha joining us. So if you want to ask a question, again, drop it into the comments and we will be happy to ask those questions live today. We will be posting the live stream as a recording afterwards. It will be available on Facebook. Facebook Live has changed how they've done things in recent years, so it will only be available on Facebook for 6 months, but it will be permanently available on YouTube, depending on where you are joining in from. And Casey says, have bought the book, but haven't started it yet. So Casey, we are excited for you to join us. And Samantha also has bought the book and has read it. Samantha, we want to know what you think. So we're excited to get started. Like I said, if you guys have questions, drop them in the comments box and we will be asking those questions today. Grisha, I'm going to let you talk for a minute. This book has been so revolutionary for so many people. Where did the idea come from?
My original, basically Peanut was the original bat dog, my dog Peanut. And I was looking for solutions for him for his reactivity. So he was afraid of people and dogs and all the things. Oh, look, there's Peanut. Yay. And so what existed wasn't sufficient, right? I did all of the counter conditioning, which not to knock counter conditioning, but I did lots of that, did lots of clicking for looking away, all the things. And I needed something that was deeper, that was really more of a therapy for him. So I ended up looking at other techniques like cat and getting some more inspiration, and then ended up weaving all of those together to find a technique that actually worked for not just Peanut, but of course my dog training clients. And that's how Bat was born.
You know, I picked this page out of the book, not just because it has Peanut, your inspiration, the original bat dog, but also because you jump right in. This is page 7. You're right at the very beginning of the book, and you talk about control and empowerment. Can you speak a little bit to just how important that is, not only to this process, but to our dogs' well-being and their livelihoods and welfare?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the contributions of Bat to this this industry was really this aspect of agency. So of having more control in the hands or the paws of the dog. Controllability and predictability are these major ways to reduce distress. And so if we're trying to make it so the dogs can cope with situations, if we're constantly controlling them, then they're not really learning that actually they have control over something. So they can turn their heads away, they can walk away, they can go investigate. There's all these choices that they have. And so our role is really to help make that possible. So to create a sense of safety so that from there they can be curious. And so using long leash skills and all these various ways that give the dogs more agency is so important.
I would totally agree. We have a comment. We've got a couple of comments. We've got S. Jordan Lee, who says, has read Bat 2.0 and has given it to neighbors who are not dog-wise. Thank you for spreading the word. That is something that is so important to both of our missions, both at Dogwise and Grisha being an amazing author and speaker. Claire actually says that she has read the book and is now a C-Batty KSA. And Grisha, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the C-Batty program. And for people who might not know what that is, can you pitch that to us a little bit?
Sure. That's for dog professionals who want to really understand BAT and apply that in their practice. So it's certified BAT instructor, and KSA is knowledge and skills assessed. There's also a KA version. And we do that. The education part of that is all online, so you can access that from anywhere. And then the practical exam is more of a video situation. So we actually can assess then, are you coaching well? Are you giving the agency that you need to give? Are you setting up those situations where the dog is far enough away or all the things? And so I've said this for decades but basically that when people really understand BAT, like I fall in love with them a little bit, like, cause our mindsets are more similar. And so these are the people that are just like, you know what, actually BAT applies in lots of situations. And I really want to do this in my practice.
That's amazing. Can you tell people where they can find out more about becoming a certified BAT instructor if they are a pet pro and they want to take that next step?
Sure. If they just go to school.grishastewart.com, there's an information there about certification. And we actually have different levels as well. So those are the two major levels of that. But there's also, I think it's in progress. I'm not sure if it's happening yet, but there's also a BAT, like a foundations. So for people who are just like, you really want to get this. Yeah.
I saw that on the website. It says coming soon. So we'll drop those links in the chat, and then also they will be available on our Facebook event page afterwards. So if you're looking for more information about that. Now, we've got a couple of people who have just bought the book. Can't wait to read it. Oh, Claire went ahead and shared the link for us. Thank you so much, Claire, for helping us moderate our chats over here and make sure that information's available. Thank you. So what I will say for people who might never have heard of you before, I bet that's unlikely, but you never know who's tuning in.
You'd be surprised.
How can there's anyone who has never heard of Grisha Stewart?
I say I'm a Z-list celebrity. There's like
I don't know about that. What I will say is BAT 2.0, it says 2.0 on it. But I happen to have here in my very own hands a BAT no 0.0, a first version of BAT.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest, I actually bought it on Thrift Books. Like, you can't find this anywhere on the internet anymore. And it came with somebody else's notes in the margins, which I think is really great. So BAT 2.0 actually was published almost 10 years ago now. But in the book, you talk about how BAT evolved from this kind of BAT 1.0, BAT 2.0. I wanted to give you the opportunity, Grisha. Is there some evolving that is happening with BAT currently? How has BAT changed from your very first book that you ever wrote to BAT 2.0, and kind of where is the future of BAT headed?
Mm-hmm. So I actually have a copy of it as well. I'm just going to show off that it's in Spanish too. And then I think in Dutch and German, maybe.
That's so cool. That's amazing that it's become a worldwide sensation.
And that yellow one is in Chinese. And so, but I definitely discontinued that one because the 2.0 replaced it. Now, the thing about the evolute of BAT now is that the things that we're doing don't replace what's in 2.0. In fact, I'm going to be trying to change the title to just back to, just this. So without the 2.0 at the end, because just let bat be bat, right? So it's sort of, we don't need to versionize it.
Sure.
And what's really evolved. So as bat went through, it started as really this process of giving the dog a choice, right? So being able to disengage and all those things. And then what happened over time is I began to realize the role of what else I was doing that maybe wasn't common. And also I was learning things as I traveled around the world, getting questions, right? I'm always a learner. And so I started adding the longer leash. And with that, realizing that there's some really specific skills people need to have in order to be able to do that safely and to give a sense of freedom to the dog. So that's one of the major ways that BAT 2.0 evolved. And instead of being really this, the difference between 1 and 2 is really this process of giving the dogs more of the control over the reinforcer. So in the first one, it was really like the dog looks at something. When they look at it or look away, we click or say yes, move away. And so we're the ones administering the reinforcer. And what I came to realize is that that was problematic in a couple of ways. And one way is that it actually encouraged people to go closer in order to give them an opportunity to reinforce their dogs. So they were actually putting the dog over threshold as they sort of like, no, we want to get to that yes point, right? Because it's very reinforcing for us to click or say yes. And so I got rid of that part. The other problem with that is that it wasn't necessarily the exact reinforcer that the dog needed in the moment. Sometimes they want to go sideways or other directions. And so 2.0 is much more about this sort of meandering approach. Dogs have a chance to look, and then as they turn away, we might sort of step to the side to open up that space, and then they move into that. And so it's really a naturally occurring reinforcer versus the human coming in and saying, now you get this distance. And that was game changing. People are much better at keeping their dogs below threshold. And it's just this nuanced dance. And so that's still how we do setups for BAT. That's nothing has changed in that. And additionally, though, what's happened, and this kind of parallels some of my own learning in my personal life, is that dogs are not just individuals making decisions. They are part of a community. They're part of an attachment relationship. And so what I called 3.0, but I'm deciding now to not do that, but is this more attachment oriented approach. Now it's always been trauma informed, but we're adding more aspects of that and really working on the calming the human side of the relationship. So breath work, really attuning even more to like, where is our body? What is our body doing? And then also doing relationship kind of practices outside of the training setup.
That is so, I can't wait to read it. That's so valuable. That's definitely, as we know, the more we work with dogs, regulating ourselves and being able to co-regulate is crucial to success. I do want to, you did answer this question, but I want to highlight it just to clear up any confusion. Priscilla wants to buy the book. Can you do BAT 2.0 without the other books? Priscilla, currently BAT 2.0 is the only book out there. And then we will probably in the next couple of months or year be updating that. So you'll be able to buy that, and it will hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, it will not say 2.0. It will just be behavior adjustment training with the updated version. So like I said, this is available in a paperback, an ebook, and also an audio book, the current version of BAT that is on the market. We've got,
oh
yeah, of course.
So to answer that question a little bit more as well, is that this absolutely is the foundation. So please, like, this is the one to grab. And we are coming out. This is our kind of first announcement of it. But I'm also self-publishing a book coming out in probably early summer. That's going to be a community BAT book. So it has different chapters from different practitioners all around the world of different ways that they've used BAT. So whether it's the shelter or service dog training or in the city or all those little aspects of it, you'll need to use the blue book to really understand the bigger context of that. And this will give some more nuance. So I'm super excited about that.
That's very exciting. Is it going to be kind of case studies or more of like applications of BAT in different settings?
It's a little bit of both. So some people are choosing the case study route, and some people are choosing, like, for example, we have one on predation substitute training. So she'll be talking about how BAT informed the creation of predation substitute training and weave that in. And yeah, so all kinds of different things, holistic approach to dog training, using like BAT as the tool, but like setting the foundation of what are some ways you can do reduce arousal before the BAT setups.
That's awesome. We have a couple questions coming in, so I'm going to share them. Andrea says, I love BAT and I use it as much as possible. I have found with many dogs, this is exactly what they need. The thought process and utilizing choice and a feeling of control for the dog. But I work with reactive dogs in a large city right downtown. Can you provide some tips on how to best utilize BAT in an environment where we are constantly bombarded by triggers?
Yes, I can do that. And then also the short answer is that we actually have a whole class for that called Urban BAT if you go to the Grisha Stewart Academy. And essentially what you're going to be doing is really weaving in and out between the version of BAT that's this like loose and free whenever you can, right? So whenever there is space, you kind of let the line out and you're doing BAT kind of the official way. And then the other times you're using survival skills. And so we have a webinar about that, but there's also information here about the survival skills. And so essentially what you're going to be doing is more like clicking as soon as the dog looks at the trigger, or yes, as soon as they look at the trigger, move away, give a treat. That's one of your easy ways. Jumping behind, like look at, car, like use sound and visual as your like cityscape as your barriers, right? So thinking about how the fact that like dogs can sometimes see under cars depending on the size of the dog you have, but walking that space without your dog so that you have a more grounded sense. You're not like having to be defensive as you walk, and just take a walk in that space and really check out, how is this for my dog? What's the experience that they would have here? Where are my exits? Where are places that I can sort of go and not be bombarded with triggers? I still have this fantasy and I haven't made it yet, but if someone wants to partner with me on making this, there was a trainer, one of the sea baddies, Nancy, I want to say Friedman, was like, we need to have a BAT cape. Right. And so I actually did some designing of it, of this like sort of skirt essentially that you could like whoop, and then it like makes a little barrier so the dog can be behind you and then they can't see anything.
For the human, not for the dog. This is
not for the dog. Yeah. So, and if you need to, then, I mean, so regardless of whether you have a BAT cape or not, if you, put the dog behind you, so training the behind, and then one other really key survival skill is the nose target. So just teaching a dog to like touch their nose to your hand. And then you basically, either target just without the treat in your hand or with a treat in your hand. And then the key is to let go of the treat at just the right moment. So keep in mind, like basically they can eat the treat and then go back to the trigger. So I usually give a treat first, kind of right at the beginning of it. So they're like, oh yes, we're in food mode. I'm getting my food. And then kind of tease them all the way past it and then toss the treat. So then they keep going. So get some momentum to keep going past the trigger. So that's not technically BAT. It's just a survival skill, but it does help keep you and them calm. And I have one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I was going to say really quick. It's interesting that you say that. There is a lot in your book that talks about management. And that is something that I know Dogwise just published a book in the last 2 years called Manage It. It's by Juliana DeWillems, and it's an entire book about management. And I remember when I was sitting down with Larry, who owns Dogwise, and we were looking at this new idea for a book about management, the question was, is there a book about management? Like, don't we have a book that just is discussing management? And Larry said, well, Grisha Stewart sure dedicates a lot of her book to management strategies. And I was like, she does. So I actually pulled this page out to talk a little bit about how important management is in a lot of aspects of our dogs' lives. And you have such great, I mean, pages and pages of recommendations. In Juliana's book, Manage It, she talks a lot about the treat magnet and a treat waterfall and kind of like how to do it. And we have evolved at Dogwise. We actually have QR codes you can scan out of the book that will show you a video of how to do a certain skill. So if you want some more tips just on management strategies that you can apply for your reactive dogs, there's an entire book about that. But Grisha, I'll let you finish your other thought that you were wanting to share.
Sure. And I love Juliana. So the other thought was, in terms of the attachment relationship, making sure that you are also conveying to the dog that they're safe. So as we're worried about their reactivity, sometimes our breathing changes or we start scanning. And so things like blinking, making sure that you have a blink rate that's not equivalent to a border collie that's staring, right? So blinking is good, and breathing is good. And then the other piece that, depending on how many thoughtful things you can juggle, is that while you're waiting for a dog to go pee or whatever else, you can do a little mindfulness exercise of things. So I do the 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can smell, and so on. So you kind of go through all of your senses. And so when we go into our senses, it gives the dogs a chance to also go into their senses, and it helps them make better choices.
I want to highlight this comment that we've got from Andrea saying, yes, the humans need help. And I know that this was in relation to the BAT update book that we're working on, and maybe the community book of like, yeah, this is about both ends of the leash. And as you're talking about this, Grisha, thinking about, it's common that it's not just the dogs that are stressed. We do have to consider both ends of the leash there, which is really important.
Yeah. And I want to take a moment to unguilt people in case they have started to already guilt themselves. So yes, we can be part of the problem a little bit, and we can definitely be part of the solution. And so rather than sort of like, oh no, I'm messing my dog up, and then having that spiral us into a place of stress, just think of like, oh, here's another way I can support my dog.
Yeah.
And, and we also have a class at the GSA called How to Human. So that's if you're wanting more human skills, it's for dog trainers or dog people. So it describes all of the various ways that we can support our own thrival, but through this lens of understanding dog behavior as well.
Yeah. And I wanted to actually show this page from the book that is talking about signs of stress in dogs. I know that Lily Chin contributed quite a bit to this one, both of your wonderful books. And Lily Chin's illustrations are just the best. I cannot say enough good things about Lily Chin, but I think we're really good at recognizing signs of stress in dogs, but maybe not as much in ourselves. So can you kind of speak to that? You did a little bit about these 5 things you can see, but can you just talk a little bit more about that for people who might be thinking, okay, I recognize my dog is showing some of these stress signs, maybe yawning or lipping or lifting a paw. What are some things that when we see that in our dogs, we could benefit from doing something ourselves to help us regulate?
So let me just make sure I understand the question, because what I first heard was you saying, like, what are some signs in ourselves that we can tell that we need to de-stress? But I'm not sure if that's really the question you asked.
I think I changed the question. I think the question was, okay, now if I'm good at recognizing these stress signs in my dog, what should I do next, maybe as a human, to regulate myself, to help my dog co-regulate?
Mm-hmm. Got it. So yes. And I guess to some extent, I'll answer both of those questions at once anyway. So we tend to do a lot of these same things without knowing, right? So we're not doing all of them, but for example, dogs, I don't know if it's on here, but dogs get really tight ears, right? So if you feel their ears, you can tell that they're tense. So, and try it with your own dogs at home, pet them at certain times and, see how soft their ears are, test it whether you're on a walk, that sort of thing. And so one thing we can do is to relax our own ears. And you can do that just internally. You don't have to be on the walk and like massaging your ears, but certainly you could, right? So you can do some just massaging around we tend to hold a lot of stress right here. So if you're working with a client and they're on a pause, that's one thing they can do, is just sort of like, okay, let's relax ourselves, relax that
Such
jaw.
a good invitation for anyone who is
right?
tuning in. just go ahead. And I am currently feeling stress as there is a delivery truck outside of my house, and my reactive dogs any minute are going to just say, hey, did you know that there's a delivery truck out there? And I'm going to say, yes, but I am talking to Grisha and lots of other folks right now. So let's just reduce our stress together. How about?
Yes. Yes. It reminds me of, I have a webinar because we have a class for that. There's a class called How to Zoom with Your Dog Without Losing Your Job.
What? Oh, yes. Claire, quick, get us the link. Claire has been so good. She keeps like, here's the link for the How to Be Human. Like, Claire is our honorary moderator for our comment section today.
Yes.
But all of these classes that you've got on your website, Grisha, like they're so practical and so beneficial. I can tell that these are things that people need. Like, yeah, how to Zoom without losing your job. I like that one.
Yes. So back to your question. So also just like a body scan. One thing I would recommend is having a practice of meditation that you just do 5 minutes a day, or, morning and night, something that sort of supports your overall resilience, so that when you need it, you actually have it. But in these moments, definitely one thing you can do is just alter your breathing so that your exhale is longer than your inhale. And a really easy way to do that is called the physiological sigh, and I'll demonstrate it. So basically you inhale twice through the nose and kind of like you like take sips. You like sip in half the air through your nose, the other half again, and then you exhale really slowly. So it's just and I'll do it one more time and not more than that, because otherwise I might get too restful. So and this is something, I'm just going to let that land if people are doing that at home. This is something you can do before you take a walk. So it's kind of like sets the tone for your walk. You can do it, as you're starting to feel agitated on the walk, if the dog's feeling agitated. I have also a class called Stop Pulling. And in that class, there's several different exercises for teaching your dog that you can tell, like that you can basically say you're safe. But the first step is to have yourself, like teach yourself the cue, you're safe. And then that will start to convey to the dog as well. So, yeah.
That kind of answers Casey's question. I wanted to ask how to convey to the dog that they are safe and that you will keep them safe. So I wanted to highlight this question and reiterate that, it is important to believe or to know that you are safe yourself before you can try and teach or convey that to your dog.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a key. And rehearsing your management so that it can happen really easily, both in terms of the dog doing a U-turn or whatever else the thing is, but also your own physical responses of, okay, what am I going to do with the leash? How do I handle all of this? So practicing it at home, practicing it in your imagination, like visualizing that you are out on a walk and something is happening, and then rehearsing that. So rehearsal is really great. If you have something like spray shield or a silly string, like if there's going to be an off-leash dog running at you and you need to repel them, rehearsing that in your mind, or physically as well.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, in addition to management, I would consider this a management tool. Teaching a dog to work with a muzzle is, I think, an incredibly important skill that I personally believe that all dogs should have. I think that muzzle work has come so far in the last few years, and more awareness about muzzle work and things like that, where, teaching a dog to not just accept a muzzle, but counter conditioning to a muzzle. And this is such a great example of what do you do to practice ahead of time. You don't want to be slapping a muzzle on your dog right as soon as the trigger hits, right? Like, you want your dog to be so comfortable. I love this picture of this dog. This dog is wearing a custom-made biothane muzzle from Trust Your Dog. And this dog very clearly is not stressed by wearing the muzzle. I've even seen more social media posts in the last few years of people calling it a party hat that the dog knows, oh my gosh, we're putting on the muzzle. We're going to be about to be going to do something really fun. We're about to do something that's exciting because we've prepared ahead of time. And I think that more and more people getting their dogs used to counter conditioning or desensitizing to muzzles, or even having a like, wow, I'm so excited that this muzzle is going to be coming on because we're going to go do something fun, is a really great way to have an opportunity to practice that ahead of time. We did have Kelly say, I never thought about silly string. I think you're talking about the spray shield. Kelly, I have never thought about that either. Grisha's so full of wonderful new ideas.
Yes, the silly string works great, and I've definitely used it on in a situation with my own dog, actually, where there was this German Shepherd running up and probably not attempting to attack us or anything. I think if it was really like fully on, silly string may not be the solution, but it's equivalent of sort of feeling like something's being thrown at the dog, only it's not, right? It's just like party string. So, so I'm just thinking about that muzzle of the picture with the muzzle with the dog. So the ears were folded back. So it could be, dogs do have their ears folded back when they're like about to be petted as well. So I don't know, but, or maybe that's the natural carriage of the ears. But so just track that as well, that there's, just things
to look at.
But yeah, I love teaching the dogs about muzzles in advance. I actually, in my empowered puppy raising class, we actually have some experience, or we teach dogs to wear muzzles then, or just to like be able to put their face into things so that later on, should we need it, we've got it. Because it really, the more agency and the more the dog is opting in, the better. And I'm going to go off on a slight tangent here about consent, because it's so important. So if you think about like anything in your life that you actually enjoy, if that same thing were to happen to you without your consent, it may not be something that you actually enjoy, right? And so if we take the time to make it so the dog is opting into things, that's huge. Like it's quality of life for them. It's the way we would want to be treated. It's all the good stuff. And so if you have a muzzle and the dog isn't like, hey, I'm going to cross the room and put my face into it, then you're probably not done yet.
That's true. I did also pull a page just for the opportunity to mention that chapter 13 of the BAT book talks about BAT for puppy socialization. And earlier we were talking about, there's so many applications of BAT. When I was flipping through the book being like, what are we going to talk about with Grisha tomorrow? I was like, oh yeah, puppy socialization. Like that's something I would probably not have immediately thought of. And I'm so glad that this is an entire chapter that's included in here. But once again, thinking about like, I don't think I've ever muzzle trained a puppy. I think I've only ever done it with adult dogs, but what a much better idea to do it with a puppy so that they're like, oh, this is just, I told a client last week, I'm like, this is like putting on a harness or putting on a collar or what, like if you train it right, the dogs will be like, oh, cool, we're going somewhere fun. But I've never thought about training it for a puppy. So still lots to learn. But if you're interested in how to apply BAT with puppies, there are some great suggestions and solutions here in the book as well. So when you were talking about that made me think of that chapter 13. Pipsa said, I meditate with my dogs and they decided to join me sometime. And after some stepping around me, they lay down. So nice, in my opinion. I completely agree. It's such a great thing to be able to co-regulate with our dogs. Andrea said, brilliant breeding. I'll be using this one for sure for myself and clients. And I just want to thank you, Grisha, for giving us 2 breaths together to slow down. Something that I always love whenever I see you speak in person is that you have a a human body break, where it's like, okay, everybody just get up
bio break.
Bio break. And I remember sitting, I think it was at a Clicker Expo a couple of years ago. And you said, if you want to sit on the floor, if you want to put your feet up on a chair, like go get comfortable. And I was like, oh, someone's giving me permission to do this, that I don't have to just sneak making my body comfortable. And I think it's something I've always appreciated about listening to you speak, is that it is two-way communication, not unlike you working with your dogs, but also taking everyone's needs into consideration. And I'm grateful for that. And I know that others are as well. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Erica. Yeah, I find that, it's the courtesy I would want also. I have I've lived with pain in my back for a long, long time. And so knowing that if I'm going to be at a seminar, I'm going to be in the back of the room, moving around, being, what other people might consider weird or rude or whatever. And so I just want people to know straight up that they can go be human. Yeah, I have two different things to add here. Is that okay if I jump in? So one is on the puppy thing. I don't know if you can see my puppy in the background. Probably not. But back there, anyway, there's a puppy, which is a whole big deal. So to have a new puppy in my life, and yeah, it's definitely reinvigorated my work with dogs, and I'm very glad to have a soulmate dog again. It's been a long time. So I can't believe that Peanut died 10 years ago. Just like, what? So I've been doing lots of that with this puppy. So when I went to choose the dog, I decided that I would get a dog that didn't have any issues, and that would be great. And then it turned out that that's not really how the world works. And so I went to check it out at the foster parents, and the dog, she was like terrified of me and barked at my dog and was like the barkiest dog that was there. And I'm like, I like this one. So, yeah. And so, I mean, BAT is great for all puppies. It's not just for puppies that have reactivity issues already, but it definitely is great for like smoothing out all of those rough edges. And puppy raisers use it for service dog training for their puppies. So it's really good at building resilience. And we're actually, with this puppy, I wanted to take my own empowered puppy raising class. So I'm now doing that, and then having a live Q&A every Friday. So this Friday will be another Q&A for that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it is fun, especially as a professional. Professional dog trainer, and I rescued my heart dog 7 years ago, and went to the rescue and was like, you can give me a problem dog. Like, I know what I'm doing. And I did, and I do. And it was the best dog. And I absolutely am like, next dog, I am going to an ethical breeder and getting one of those derpy gold retrievers who's like, I love everyone and everything is easy. Like, I think there's just this, where am I in my journey? And there's so much humbling that can happen when you're like, I know what I'm doing, but I'm very happy to hear you've got a puppy in your life. I'm going to let you say your other thing, but I have not forgotten that we have a question that I scrolled past a little bit earlier. And since we're talking a little bit about kind of an ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure when it comes to puppies, and how that can be applied not just in reactivity, walking down the sidewalk of your neighborhood. We have a question from a viewer who has a friend's dog that you've been working with, and she had to go to the vet yesterday. She was so scared. I'm here because I was reviewing how I could have handled the situation better, and ran across Grisha's announcement of this interview. So glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us. Applications for using the BAT at the vet. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations there?
Yes, I have a couple of suggestions for sure that are definitely BAT, and then there's other things that are not BAT that I would also do, and because BAT plays well with others. So one thing is getting the dog used to your veterinarian as much as you can before you're going, and so in between visits, just take some time to do some vet visits. And not just starting out with going into the vet practice, but your first step is just be there, get out of the car, go walk around the place where the vet is. And that's where I would use the BAT leash skills. So just, lots of room, sniffing things, maybe seeing other dogs from a distance. And of course, if it's not enough distance, then using some of those survival strategies we talked about earlier. And then another suggestion I would have is that's still BAT, is to be basically like, as you're inside, looking for where are some places where the dog could go that's a little bit more safe and free. So looking at like, could I step around this way? Could I, where's the space? And then I would also, basically, when I go to the vet, I leave the dog in the car, go check in, do all the things, and then just go beeline straight to the room. And if you weigh your dog at home, then you can usually just tell them how much they weigh. If it's a dog that you can, somehow hold in your arms while you stand on your own scale at home. A lot of vets you can get away with that, with just telling them the weight, because the scale is usually out there in front of everybody, and that's a place of reactivity. But when you go in and you're first checking in, telling them, hey, my dog has issues with other dogs. Is there a room that we can get to more easily, more quickly? Is there a back door? All of those things. And then that's also where your muzzle friend comes in, handy. And I do also have a YouTube video that you can check out that's for trips to vets. So it has lots of other survival strategies in there.
That's awesome. I like that tip about holding your dog and weighing your dog at home and kind of getting, I have trained my dog to get on a scale, and we go and we practice, but then he knows when it's for real life, and he's like, I think it's been about a year since I got those pokey things. I know that, but that's my anthropomorphization of like, we know how to get on a scale and hold still and chin rest. Why are you? He's like, it's not a practice this time. I know it.
Yeah, you see puppy back here and doing a little stretch. Yeah. And other things you can do is like, if you bring your own, mat or whatever that can go on the scale, so it's easier to get up, it's not so slippery, that sort of thing can be helpful as well. But yeah, all of the cooperative care work is definitely going to help with the vet. And there's a class for that too. So and I know Dogwise also has books on that.
Yeah, we do. We do have several. We've got Deb Jones' book. I know it's on my shelf somewhere. It might not be on my shelf because I might have pulled it off to reference it for something recently. But Deb Jones' cooperative care book is 7 steps to stress-free handling. Now I'm going to have to find it. But it is on the Dogwise website. It's a really great selling book as well that helps teach some cooperative care, which is skills. Again, I think that every dog could definitely benefit from having. Grisha, did you have one other thing you wanted to say? Do you remember what it was?
I do. Yeah. So it's a little bit left field, but you mentioned attuning to the human side of things at, in conferences or at seminars. And so some of my work in the world that's not in the dog world is specifically on the lines of kinship tending. So how do we take care of each other? How do we take care of the sort of the bond between all humans and us as community? And so I actually have a class out in the world that's free on kinship tending for gatherings. And so this is my shout out to anybody who's hosting a seminar or who's hosting a conference or a Clicker Expo or any of those things, to look at how can we actually take care of each other. And so it looks at like from every perspective of the host of it or the people attending or the people who are helping in the kitchen or all the things. How do we take care of their sense of belonging? Because when we belong, we all feel better. Our nervous systems are better. We can co-regulate as a community. So enough said, but it's meant really for more like festivals. So you have to adapt it to like more of a working conference thing. But I highly recommend that class as a collaboration with a bunch of different people.
Tell me again what it's called. I'll make a note.
It's called Kinship Tending Skills. And then I think the subtitle is how we can all contribute to a culture of belonging.
I definitely, look, Claire's on it again. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Claire.
So here is a link to that as well. I think that sense of belonging is so incredibly important and, now more than ever in our world. So we have, it looks like another question, and this might actually pull into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is some leash handling skills and bat setups. Casey says, my dog has become reactive to dogs and now humans. It's not possible to avoid everything and everyone on walks. Yes, this is true. Am I setting him up for failure by not being able to give him a break from triggers? I use a ton of management techniques, but I don't think we've ever gone on a walk without seeing another person. Fantastic question, Casey.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So one of the good things about BAT is that it does not require that you have this perfect, never see another dog, never see another person situation. Now, if you were able to, that would be like the magical, perfect situation where every time you saw a trigger in your life, it was orchestrated. It was always at the distance that the dog could handle. That's unfortunate that we cannot do that, but we can't. So, yeah, you just do the best that you can with the situation we have. So people use BAT in shelters and it still works. And obviously, the dogs are over threshold there. And so they learn from context. They learn when they're safe, when they're not safe. And yeah, so using as much of your just regular management, as you said, to just get through. And in this sort of almost ideal world, at least you treat your way through and the dog didn't bark, even if they were stressed and they maybe didn't feel the full agency, but they were just like, they got through it. Right. And so that would be, do that if you can. And if not, then it's like, okay, if the dog barks, then you might have to kneel down and just sit with them. And as the person goes on the other side of the street and you're just like, I'm here with you. You're safe. We got this. You ready? And then they like bark themselves out. The people keep going. And then they're like, okay, fine. It's over. Yes. Okay, let's go again. And so you're not holding them as like any sort of punishment. You're just like, I see that. I see what you see. Where you're feeling stressed right now. It's like a kid's having a meltdown. You're not going to be like, with the child. You're just like, okay, here we are. You're on a roller coaster. I am going to watch you from down here. And when you come back, then we're going to go again.
Yeah, I think I wanted to show, this is the BAT stress scale. And one of my favorite graphics that appears in the book, and again, is in the accompanying PDF of the audiobook, because I do think it's such an important thing to have a good understanding of. But these colored zones, I love this idea. And when I work with my clients and say like, okay, can you recognize that your dog is in the yellow zone or is in the blue zone? Like, what can you recognize in your dog so that you can be empowered to do this when I'm not around? But I think something I want to talk about a little bit, I have a wonderful life coach therapist who says there's ideal and then there's real. And you get to live in the real. We have our ideal, but sometimes there's also what's the reality of what's happening. And so I think that, on this stress scale, it shows our ideal is being in the green zone, but sometimes we're in that area where our dogs need a little bit more support. Kelly has tuned in and said, I use this graphic with every client. Yes, same, Kelly. I totally agree. It's such a valuable resource. So Grisha, can you talk a little bit about the ideal versus the real? I know you have a little bit already, but just kind of giving ourselves some grace that we're not going to be perfect and our dogs are not going to behave perfectly every time, but that's the real life situation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so our work with our dogs is to try to work on it being ideal whenever we can. So in this like green zone, even the blue is relatively fine, right? Their stress goes up a little bit, but it's still like they can cope with it just fine. And what that means literally here in the blue zone is that maybe the dog is looking at the trigger for a while and then they disengage, right? And so their heart rate went up a little bit. If you had a heart rate monitor on them, you would see that. And then you would see the heart rate go down by itself. Now, the yellow zone is like, it takes a while for the dog to disengage. I do sometimes in real life that will happen, is like the dog, maybe it takes 10 seconds, maybe it takes 30 seconds, even longer, as long as you're not seeing the dog get more, like the tail isn't going more and more up or more and more down. And you're just seeing, so by up, I mean like up over their head. So going to neutral is good. As long as they're not doing that, then you just wait them out. You're doing your 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, and just soothing yourself while the dog goes through this process. And it used to be like with BAT, the original BAT that came out, that we probably were working more in the yellow zone. And so we shifted now to be ideally working in green or blue. And so it's kind of like if you were, your example that you were giving, Erica, is like your therapy is the ideal, right? It's this perfect space where like everything's managed really well. And then out in the real world, we're going to have meltdowns sometimes. And it's the cycling back that is what's important. And so what you should see over time, if you're doing this right, is that you're getting fewer and fewer of those yellow or worse. And you're also, the resilience, like the recovery time is going shorter and shorter.
Yeah. And I think
ideally that they're making friends over time. Yeah.
Ideal. Casey, and I think, Casey's saying barking has decreased, but staring has not. I think it's worthwhile to say progress, not perfection, right?
Exactly. Right. Well, maybe for a lifetime that you just get staring and not barking.
Yeah.
And that's probably fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like but if we're decreasing one of those undesirable behaviors, that is definitely progress. And then Diana said, the beach analogy is so easy for clients to understand. I agree. You can see it in this red zone where the dog is literally over its head. It needs a lot of support. It needs to be able to get out of there. So it is such a great graphic to be able to share with people and for people to really be able to understand. So thank you for creating this wonderful resource, Grisha.
You're welcome.
Something that we're very grateful for. I do have a couple of other things I wanted to show, that there are different things in the books as well. Lots of great graphics in this book, including interesting, I think, like when I was first learning BAT, I had read the book and was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm totally on it. And let me just tell you, you make the leash skills look easy. They take practice. I'll tell you what. There's some great graphics that are in here. This is one of my favorites that I like to work on with every client, is this kind of, you can see on that, it's on page 92 on that right-hand side, the point of balance of the dog being either kind of leaning, right? We all know this, right? The dog leaning with their harness all the way towards the thing, or are they centered? And helping the dogs build that skill, and yourself build that skill of how to respond when your dog is off balance is so important as well. And there are a lot of pictures demonstrating how to do these skills. So if you're reading this book for the first time, or if you're a veteran, just know it takes practice. This is not something that just happens right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And practicing with, a lot of times, even just with like another person as the dog is really useful for practicing the leash skills. Or one of the sea baddies came up with at one point doing like a chair, like an office chair with wheels. And so then they would just like send the chair out and then do a slow stop with that. So like the leash was tied to the office chair as the dog. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea to practice it that way as well. And again, just tons of really great opportunities to see in picture version, how do you handle an off-leash dog running up to you, and how can you apply these things in real time, which is, I think, very valuable. Also in the book, something that's there is BAT setups. There's, again, good graphics available there for people to look at, and skills like mark and move, which we won't talk about today because we are running out of time to ask all of our questions of Grisha. But I wanted everyone to just kind of be able to see that there are lots of opportunities to continue learning from this book with these different pages that are included as well. So if you have any last minute questions for Grisha, hurry and ask them now. I have a couple more questions for you, Grisha. Was there something that you wanted to say about any of those things we were just talking about?
Nope, that feels good. Yeah, and thank you. I do need to make sure to get out of here on the hour because I've got a plane to catch. So
where are you headed?
Minneapolis. I'm going to be doing some singing and rallying and supporting and learning as well. So definitely important.
Please take our love with you to the folks in Minneapolis. We know that the humans and the dogs of Minneapolis need some extra support right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. And I may be doing a fundraiser to support, to be able to donate to families or whoever else might be needing that. So
excellent. Please keep us posted. And if you are sharing that, we will definitely share that as well. One last thing I wanted to talk about, and we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but towards the end of the book, there are several resources and chapters. If you're a professional trainer and you want to be using BAT with clients, a professional trainer or behavior consultant, and some resources available. Thank you again to Claire, who has been offering in the comments some links to the online classes, but we talked a little bit about becoming a C-Batty, a certified bat instructor. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about that, Grisha? Because I do think like one thing that I love very much about bat is anyone can do it. It does require some skills. It does require some leash handling practice and maybe some equipment that you haven't used in the past. You know, back clip harness and a 15-foot leash is something that having leash skills, I call it my manual retractable leash when I'm doing the short length thing. And it is good to practice, like Claire said, and like you said, like a chair with wheels or a chair in the kitchen is good to practice before you even have the dog. But thinking about kind of anybody can use this, anybody can start applying it, reading the book or listening to the audio book, but especially for professionals, what is the benefit to professionals for having these skills?
Mm-hmm. To having the bat skills?
Yes, the bat skills and being able to apply them with clients.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the biggest things, I'm just remembering a conference that I did in the UK with Ken Ramirez. And he said that what he really loves about BAT is that it operationalizes being connected to your dog. So it's this very specific way to know that your client is actually attuned to what the dog is doing, because you can see the responses that the client has. It teaches people how to be connected to their dogs. And so it's true. It's helpful for all dogs. I use BAT no matter what the other problem is, whether the dog is there for aggression or not. It is, to me, it's the most humane way to be with a dog, in terms of like, if you're going to have them on a leash, handle them this way. And anytime, any dog who's even not sort of officially reactive, there are sometimes things that they're not comfortable with. So being able to read that and see like, oh, the dog might want to move away or move closer or whatever is really helpful. So it's great with shelter dogs and all the dogs. And so as a professional, it gives you a chance to really show up for the dogs. And then of course it goes over into all kinds of other parts of life. I'm just thinking of there's a place up in Gig Harbor, Washington, that's used the BAT book as their work with inmates, so helping out rescue dogs, so rehabilitating the rescue dogs. Yeah. And so I went up there to visit one time, and it just like it blew me away the effect that this work has had on the inmates about their own life. So they're like, they grok, right, the connection of like, oh right, I was that reactive dog myself. I see why I made those choices and why I felt like I did, so they were able to sort of make that that cognitive leap, right? Which is what, I mean, the book is like, we're all animals, right? We're the mammal, we're humans, but we're also mammals and animals. And so a lot of this also applies to all of our species. Yeah.
What an amazing leap to make that connection and say, like, I was that reactive dog. I think in the conclusion of your book, one of the things that you say right away is create safe situations that allow your dog to learn with naturally occurring reinforcers. And we didn't even get time to talk about functional reinforcers today. We had such a wide range of things and wonderful questions from our audience. But I love the idea of, creating that safety and agency and an opportunity for empowering your dog and yourself, as we are all learners. So we just got a message from Lynn saying, thank you for this very good information and suggestions. I will order your book now. We are actually offering a special coupon code for those of you who have stuck with us to the end. You'll be able to see it down here at the bottom. It is FB Live 20. You'll be able to save 20% on the ebook or the paperback book. So as soon as this broadcast ends, I'm going to go and make that coupon code live. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. Grisha, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, our hearts go with you on your flight today and in your time in Minneapolis. And thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to leave this up for everyone to be able to take advantage of that coupon code. And please spread the word about BAT and stay tuned for next time.
Thanks, Erica.